right, hello everyone. I'm John. Thank you. So I can be described a lot of different ways, including Post-it note fanatic. But based on the events of this past year, I'm adding one more to the list, maker. And I guess I should have seen it coming. About 20 years ago, I went to school to become an engineer. And it turns out engineers make things. I even worked in the 3D printing studio for 2 years. And yes, 3D printing actually existed back then. So I moved down to Chicago after I graduated school and spent my days making things for companies around the Chicago area. I made a lot of really cool products and made them for a lot of fun companies. About 7 years ago, I moved back to Wisconsin and have been making some amazing fitness equipment for Johnson Health Tech. So you might be asking, what's the problem? Well, while I was making all of these great products for the rest of the world, I had this really long list of growing ideas of my own. But for some reason, I could never find the trigger to get me started. So the straw that broke the camel's back was when I got my iPhone 5. You know, the one that doesn't connect to anything that you already own? Well, I had all of these docks at home, and they wouldn't work anymore. So I had to do something. So I started looking around for a solution and waiting for someone else to make it, and no one ever did. So I sat down one night and tried to figure out how I could fix my problem. I whipped up a solution and sent it off to be printed at Shapeways. Well, Shapeways also has this store where you can sell your product to other people. And I thought, well, I can't do that. I mean, what if someone bought it? And what if they got it and hated it or it didn't work? So it was terrifying, but I mustered up the courage to put it out there, and as you would have it, I became a product maker. So sales started coming in. It was like design cocaine. It was like, what else could I do? So I turned to this paper grocery list that I had. So I've got this list it's super detailed. It's organized by aisle. It's a little OCD. But I thought, I gotta make this better. I really just wanted it on my phone, and I thought maybe there's other OCD people out there in the world that want theirs too. So I set out to try to make an app. Well, turns out software design is an awful lot harder than I thought. You could say I was a little in over my head. But a lot of Googling, a lot of late nights, and a few phone a friends later, I did it. I created One List. It's an online grocery list app that at least my wife and I are using right now. But it's totally transformed the way we shop for groceries. It's still a little OCD, though. So I needed a break from all this coding. So I turned to make something a little bit more fun. I made this play kitchen for my daughter. And I used spare IKEA parts, stuff I found around the garage, and some hardware finds. So my customer is pretty happy. Then I started making Tyvek wallets. I had these wallets I had bought a Tyvek wallet that I just hated. It just didn't work. So I took some paper, figured out how to make it better, dusted off the sewing machine, learned how to sew, and started making wallets. And now to top it all off, this past year, my friend Phil and I are showcasing some designs at Design Momoka in April. Well, we had this series of garage photos as our inspiration from their permanent collection. But the inspiration really struck when we spent an afternoon walking around a hardware store. So when was the last time you really took a minute to look at all of the cool shapes and forms that you find, like how two bottles nest together? So one particularly interesting form were these tile spacers that I had a bunch of open bags of at home. And when you put them together, they create this really interesting pattern. So I put them together and created these coasters. I had this other problem another iPhone problem, where the cable keeps falling off the back of the desk. So I had this spare concrete and some PVC pipe, and I created these little concrete cord keepers. So what does this all mean? Well, for me, it wasn't about all of these little things. It was about the process of making these things. It was about just doing it. It was something I hadn't done before. So this past year, I've learned that inspiration is everywhere. You just have to open your eyes. And Designs or ideas do not equal designs. You have to make them for them to exist and for them to be wanted. And making is an attitude, and it changes your life. Be careful, it may change yours as well. Thanks.